Hello, I'm Gary Korolev with Sovereign Wealth Management. Today we're going to talk about Bitcoin and its recent volatility, since I've been getting a lot of questions on it. Looking at the charts and what's been happening lately, this is the latest correction since November. Why is it happening? This candlestick chart is the correction in Bitcoin. This orange line is the correction in the ARK Innovation ETF. That is the quintessential fund holding a lot of the well-known non-profitable tech companies, which have the promise of big earnings in the far future. This blue line, which has been going up as our two risk assets we're discussing are coming down, is the 2-year treasury yield. As you can see, they're the opposite. Now, the point here is that as rates go up, liquidity tightens, and liquidity is what drives risk assets upward. Risk assets like Bitcoin and like tech companies, and yields going up pulls liquidity out of the system. So of course the market's afraid of inflation, as well as Fed tightening. Rates going up due to inflation and expectations of Fed tightening started bringing down both Bitcoin and tech stocks. Now, why is this happening? Well, the point is, overall in investing, macro and liquidity rules all, at least for the time being, because liquidity is kind of the spigot for risk assets to go up. And as you can see, this blue area, this is correlation between tech stocks, the ARK Innovation ETF, non-profitable tech, and Bitcoin. You can see it's almost 1. Now, correlation is how closely two assets move together. So what this is telling us is Bitcoin is becoming increasingly, or is starting to act increasingly like tech companies. Why is that? Well, over the last couple years, increasingly Bitcoin has become an asset which is held and traded by big macro hedge funds and other investors. And so when they sell risk assets, they view Bitcoin as a risk asset, and they sell it at the same time. And they buy risk assets, they buy Bitcoin also. And so we're seeing this correction begin, and it's not showing any signs of subsiding at this point. Looked like the market had 4.3 or 4.25 rate hikes priced in for the Fed by the end of this year, as you can see in this chart. Now, since this volatility has started a week and a half ago, that prediction, that estimate, has been going down pretty quickly, which means the market, as earlier this week was seen, the market may get some temporary relief and maybe not be as quick to sell off if it feels that the Fed is not going to rate hike as many times. Now, if we look at a chart which looks at Bitcoin more from a fundamental pricing or a long-term value standpoint, this chart shows the Bitcoin realized value over time, the orange line. Now, realized value means the average realized price at which everybody that holds Bitcoin bought that Bitcoin. And you can see this dark blue line is the actual price of Bitcoin. So historically, this orange line has been a great time to buy when Bitcoin reaches this line. And below we see a chart, this gray and green shows the times that Bitcoin was a generational, quote unquote, buying opportunity. And so we're not quite at that generational buying opportunity area yet, but we're a lot closer to it than when we were at the top of the price range, around the $69,000 range for Bitcoin early last year. That's something to think about in terms of where we are in Bitcoin's potential price movement. So it could get down much closer to the realized price, but the closer it gets there, the better buying opportunity it is if you believe in Bitcoin as a sound investment going forward. Now, this is another chart and another way to look at one of the simplest and most core ways to look at whether or not an asset is a good value from a technical standpoint, whether it's going to continue selling off or not. Now, this is the weekly chart, and we have the 200-week moving average here. As you can see, this was in 2018 and in March 2020. Those are the only two times when Bitcoin's price touched the 200-week moving average, and you can see obviously great buying opportunities both times. Now, for Bitcoin's price to reach the 200-week moving average at this point, it would need to get down to about 20,000. So that's a pretty big drop from the current area. the current price it's trading at, which is closer to 36,000. But if it gets down there, certainly looks to be, from a probability standpoint, a great buying opportunity. What does the trend look like? Well, a good way to look at the trend versus just price is switching from a price chart to the Heiken Ashi candles type of a chart, which really doesn't show you price directly, but shows the trend. Red is bad, okay? Green is good. Green is several weeks in a row. We have a green candle. You have an upward trend established. Clearly, you can see here we have a downward trend that's not showing signs of subsiding at this point. You certainly want to see wicks up and down, showing that there's a war between the bulls and the bears, so to speak. We're not seeing those wicks at the top, just down, so really showing the bears in control at this point on the chart. So that's a few basics and our current views on Bitcoin. If you have any potential questions for us, you can follow up with us. Our information will be posted. None of this is investment advice, since I don't know your personal situation and what's appropriate for you at this time. This is just for educational purposes. Thank you.